Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well, or all doing well. I think it's been about 10 days since the last update, so I know this one's slightly late. It has been a little bit chaotic at my end, just dealing with some of the tests, and the other issue is we've had some timetabling issues here at home. I'm slightly aware that I've slightly behind on emails. So what I wanted to do was make a summary of the questions I've been asked about the essay and respond to them here. I'm hoping that I'm answering all the questions that have been asked. There are one or two which I'm going to respond to, which are a bit more specific, but I'm just going to talk through here, and hopefully everybody will benefit. Now, the first question was on deadline actually, and I received a question from a student rep as well on whether the deadline should be during the exams period, since this is a replacement of the exam. I've asked the assessments office for clarification on this. I'm awaiting a response. You know as well as me now that our systems are working slightly slowly right now. So as soon as I have a response, my feeling is that you'll get a few more days out of this, but assume it's still the date we set. Okay, now to get to the meat of the coursework. So one question is this about finding a problem with a social network or suggesting how a social network can be fixed? I think it's more along the lines of actually saying how can we apply social network methods to address a problem, okay, a context. So it doesn't have to be a problem with the network itself, but how we can use the network to solve a problem. So we talked about how decision making, information sharing, and innovation can be influenced by the use of through social networks. So that's the kind of link I'm looking at. So it's not that there's a problem with the network itself, but if it's whether in the context there is actually an issue with the network that can help us solve the problem within that context. Now the connected question to that is whether there are whether you need to identify sort of networks that work well or not well, and so on. To be honest, it's not about identifying a network that works well. Again, it is about how the analysis itself can help the network do the things that it's supposed to do a little bit better. Okay, so I hope that explains that. Now, with regards to the coursework, you're not supposed to conduct your own social network analysis unless you want to, as an application. If you wanted to create little problems, so you don't need to create a very large instance. If you wanted to create smaller sort of networks, toy networks, and you wanted to show how actually you could apply the method on those toy networks to help with the analysis, or to solve the problems that the individuals are facing, then that would be something interesting to do perhaps, but you're not required to conduct a network analysis of your own. It might be that there is not much literature on how it can be applied to that context. I'm okay with that as well. My main interest is for you to demonstrate how the methodology can be applied to problems in which there are networks, and to show you the challenges and limitations. Applied and solving the network is cool. I think that I answered that. So there is this question of, does it need to be a very precise real life example, or could it be just a more general example? I think both of them would work. So what you could do is you could come up with this very specific example. Okay, here's a yogurt factory, and within the yogurt factory, what people have noticed is that there are not enough strawberries in the yogurt or whatever, and this turns out that we could actually improve the social network within the factory, and that would actually help us have more strawberries in the yogurt. That would be a very specific example, and it still would work for me. And then you might have something a lot more general. You could say, well, how do we solve the problem of misinformation online, or fake news, or through social network analysis, and give a description of that. That's okay as well. So either a very specific context or a more general context, whatever you feel comfortable with. To be honest, write about something you're interested in. Okay. And I notice I'm using social network here a lot because people are asking about social networks more than system dynamics. But I think you get the gist of my comment here. Can be applied. One question is whether the analysis can also be used to modify the network in a way that's useful. I think that should be it, right? I gave the example of misinformation or fake news. Well, the analysis, social network analysis, can perhaps identify certain ways in which this spreads, but then you could also identify ways in which it could be limited, right? So that's okay to me, and actually it is perhaps part of the core of what you're doing here is how can a certain issue that we're facing be addressed through the use of either social networks or system dynamics. I think you don't, in terms of how detailed the analysis you describe needs to be. Again, it could be something like okay, well, we have this gigantic network, or we have this gigantic system which we can analyze, but obviously you don't have enough space to analyze all of it. You could say, okay, well, look, this portion of the network or this portion of the system, this is how it works, and this is how the method will be applied to this section, and then we could extrapolate from there to the other bits. Okay, so again, whatever you feel like you can fit into 1,000 words. Okay, I'm aware that I'm not giving you too many words, but that's a little bit on purpose here as well. I want you to be concise and to just give a good description of why this works. How much detail do I need to have about the network itself? I think describe the network or the system as far as you feel is going to help you describe the methodology. Okay, so you might want to just again describe a certain part of the network in a bit more detail and say, okay, well, what I'm going to do is look at this particular part of the network or the system, and I'm going to actually talk a little bit more about this, but understand that the rest are similar in a way. So I hope that helps. So the takeaways are, you are not looking at saying, okay, well, here's a social network and the social network has this problem. I think it'll be more useful to approach it from here is a management problem, okay, and this is how we can approach it through methodologies with social networks and system dynamics and so on. Okay, so I think make the problem the core and then the approach. The other takeaway was it can be a bit general or it can be a little more focused. It's up to you really based on what you're interested in. If you're interested in the energy industry and there's this network of energy companies, that's good. Or if you're interested in is the tiny system of chickens hatching in a farm, and how can we model this as a systems dynamics problem, which can then help us with getting more efficiency from our chickens. That's fine as well. And then in terms of the detail that's needed in the analysis, the takeaway here is that it doesn't have to be a detailed analysis of the whole network or the whole system. I think demonstrate how it can be done to a certain part of it with little toy models and so on. And again, the emphasis for me is, well, explain the context well, but then the application, okay, how well you describe the application, and how you address the challenges and limitations. Okay, so I hope that gives you something to work with, and I'm hoping that answers, I think, 99% of what you said. I'll go through my emails again today to see if there's anything I haven't covered. If you feel like you are not satisfied at the start of the week, still send me an email. Again, it's been a bit of a chaotic week. I feel like I'm catching up. Friday night will be spent in this chair right here. And okay, well, I hope you guys are okay. This was a longer update than usual, but I hope it's a useful one, and I will speak to you soon. Okay, take care.